We get a lot of questions via email and phone calls about our hog hunting setups. And I promised to make this video to help out some folks. What I'll cover is the actual setup and the feeder assembly that we put together. After many, many years of trial and error, I found that there is no feeder produced that will give me the durability and the longevity that I have to have. We run multiple feeders over 1,300 acres. And no one system works for me, so I basically developed my own system using various components from different manufacturers. So let's take a look at that. The base of the unit is I start with a 30-gallon Moultrie feeder. I like the 30s because they're easy for one man to handle. A 55 would work great. Our system is always suspended via a rope. Tripod feeders do not work for us. The pigs, after a few years, they learned how to destroy the feeders even with rebarred legs, and it just didn't work. So everything's suspended now. To make it easy for one man to operate the systems, we use a block and tackle pulley system. I think it's a 7-to-1 ratio. One guy can easily pull up 200 pounds almost effortlessly. We stretch that out. We make our own yoke system. The heart of the feeder is the Game Warner motors. I've had great success with these. 6-volt. We add a solar panel to them. The battery will last indefinitely. I do not ever change the batteries until the batteries just die. They'll last for years. Inside this feeder is, and this is very important, is a plastic funnel system. Otherwise, you're going to get dead corn around the edges here, and it's going to mold on you over time. So every drop of corn comes out of this without shaking it or anything. They hold about 180 pounds with the feeder system in place, or with the funnel system in place there. So that's the assembly there. All right, now to the setup. This is critical. A lot of people think you can just throw a feeder up and you'll be successful, and if the pigs have never been hunted, that's the case. But when you've hunted them a number of years, like I have here for almost a decade on this farm, you better have a system in place to keep the pigs from circling you. Boars will do it 99.9% of the time, and even smart sows will do it. So this is what we do. We have, and I'm going to point it out here, we have a prevailing wind coming from the northwest. That's northwest right there. So to counter that, because the tail end of the wind, or the leeward side, is going to be southeast, we have a stand on the east-southeast side. 90% of the time, that's going to be the stand of choice. Sometimes I get here and the wind is going to be just absolutely opposite, just a crazy wonker wind. So we put up a second setup at every bait site, just like this. Normally double set, so 4 stands at each location for a cameraman or for a parent-child, something like that. So just one on the windward side, one on the leeward side. That's very important. Now here's the most important thing that you can take note. The pigs are going to circle you, so no matter where your stand is, if you do not have an obstacle to prevent these old big boars, and I'm talking 4- and 5-year-old pigs that have played the game, you're going to get busted almost every time by these big pigs, and that's what I target exclusively when I hunt. So we use a terrain feature. Usually it's going to be a creek, a high bank creek like this, or you could use a ravine, a big boulder system, something like that, something to stop these pigs. But you can see this bank, this creek is deep, 10, 12 foot deep banks, and they're very steep. There's no way a pig is going to circle you unless he's just really motivated. So this is the trail where the pigs are coming up. But so a high bank creek is a great feature to stop these pigs from circling you. All right, we're going to visit a second bait site to show you. While the situation is somewhat similar, there are a little bit of differences. I also wanted to cover it, because I didn't cover it in the section on the feeder itself, is how to feed, when to feed. I feed as little as possible to keep the bait site active. Again, most people hunt for the purpose of eradicating the pigs. So the last thing you want to do is give these pigs 25 pounds of feed a week. I feed 7 seconds on a 3/8 inch gap on my feeder motor from the spinner, and that gives 1.25 pounds. That's the big setting. That's at about 40 minutes before dark. I don't feed earlier than that because the raccoons get it, the squirrels get it, the birds get it. But you want to feed early enough to promote pigs coming in after they get used to the bait, want them to come in daytime. I also feed a 2-second burst at daylight, just in case in a remote area that I get some pigs that are coming in right after daylight. And that happens, and you'll figure that out after you start checking your baits, your cameras and all. So I'll do a 2-second. So 9 seconds per day is less than 1.5 pounds of feed. And that's more than enough to keep pigs active on your bait. All right, now let's talk about hunting these bait sites, how to approach them, things like that. Remember, the big boars are going to circle you 100% of the time. So the last thing you want to do is make entry through brush or anything that's going to leave scent, because he's going to circle and he's going to cross your entry path. So if you'll take a look right here, it might be hard to see. I use this secondary creek. This is not my diversion creek. This is just a secondary creek. Still steep and hard for the pigs to get up. But I cut right where you see me pointing. There's an entry trail for the pigs. There's another entry trail, and then there's another one coming from the southeast, which is their primary trail. I cut a tiny little trail, just big enough to get down. I don't want the pigs to start using it, but also you'll notice I don't touch any brush when I come in here. That's key, because if you touch brush, those old boars are gonna smell it and they're gonna lock up on you. One other quick note on these feeders: on that 7 to 9 second feeder setting, you'll get about 1 ring per week. So this feeder on a 9-minute 3/8 gap setting, or a 9-second 3/8 inch gap setting on the motor, that's what I'm talking about right there, just enough to get the corn to come out, you're going to get about 1 ring every 7 days, 6 or 7 days. So that'll tell you that feeder will last about 3 weeks. All right, here's this setup real quick, and then we'll go into how to position these baits. This is an east wind stand only. It cannot be hunted on a southwest wind, because that's southeast. I'm sorry, on a northwest wind. That's southeast. That's the entrance trail right there. If you hunt either one of these stands with anything with west in it, you're going to get busted every time. So this is a stand that we use for oddball winds only. 90% of the time when these boars are visiting these bait sites, they have love in mind. They don't have anything to do with the feed. You'll see right here we put out salt for them also, and they really like the salt in the summertime. You got a lot of deer tracks too. And if you'll look right here, this is a personal pig that I'm hunting. This pig is pushing 300 pounds right here. I've seen him 3 times, but not in trad bow range. All right, real quick, let's go over where to put a feeder. You could put them anywhere. Unfortunately, you put them in the wrong place, not from a standpoint of getting busted in the stand, but a standpoint of them always being visited at night. People do that because they don't allow the pig to have a travel corridor. Look around you here. It may be hard to tell, but this is jungle, and this is what you want. I hacked out this circle. This feed circle is hacked out. These stand sites are literally hacked out of the Chinese privet, and I'm on, here's my blocking creek to keep them from circling me in an east wind. Big creek, very steep. Secondary creek, very steep. So that's but also the most important factor is that creek is a travel corridor. Your creek beds, the thick ones, are going to be the arteries that these pigs are going to move. They'll move later in the morning and earlier in the evening, and that's a big factor, unless you want to hunt till midnight every night. We hunt these baits every 12 to 14 days, no sooner than that, or they just get to where they won't come in unless it's 4 o'clock in the morning. When you hunt them every 14 days, light pressure, never on a bad wind. Just don't do it. Go home. You hunt them on a bad wind and those old boars get busted. They don't wait a day or two. They may wait weeks to come back to that feeder, these 4 and 5 year old pigs. So don't push the envelope. Have a couple of different options for bad wind. And if the wind's terrible, just do spot and stalk that day. Leave them alone. And then a day or two later, when the wind changes, you can come back and kill the pigs. I think I've covered about everything I can. So, but good hunting to you. Hope this helped you.